Greetings, weary travelers, come, warm yourself by the fire, and let us regale you with mighty tales, tales of adventure, tales of heroism, and of course, tales of Tamriel, brought to you by the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, and I'm your host, Arcanir Silvershield. As always, joining me, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Lotus of Doom. How's it going, Lotus?
I'm good. I'm substantially less enraged than the internet would like us all to believe.
Yeah, it has been a very interesting July for the ESO fam or the Elder Scrolls Online community, however you want to call it. And we got a lot to discuss, and we will have a lot to discuss for the next few weeks, I feel like. Because
I think that's going to be the case going forward for a bit, and that's kind of why we're doing this format with just me and you this week, to kind of get our thoughts out first before we see how things progress, and also get some people who really are better at the number crunchy specific stuff.
Yes. So we were planning on getting some guests from one of the basically great theory crafter and number crunchers in Elder Scrolls Online. But we thought, okay, let's, as Lotus said, start with our thoughts and whatnot, and then start getting people in and give everybody some time to actually test it on PTS. That's why we didn't record last week as well, because last week the news were real, very fresh, and the PTS wasn't on yet. So all the discussions and debates and fights that we are going to get to happened before, at least when we would have recorded the show, wouldn't have been tested at all. It would have been just going off the patch notes. So we wanted to skip a week and get some data in before we actually start discussing Update 35 and the combat changes that are coming with it. Now, the thing is, outside of the combat changes, the Update 35 so far actually seems pretty good. I've seen really good things on the new dungeons, which is this, by the way, this is going to be a dungeon DLC. It is going to be introducing 2 new dungeons. And
dungeons look really good.
Yeah, I've heard great things from all parties about the dungeons. Some amazing.
No, I was going to say, just from what I've seen, it's another slam dunk from what I've been hearing of people playing them originally, that they're really fun and look awesome from the screenshots and everything that.
And apparently there are some new furnishing that people are finding, and they are great. The new item sets, a whole lot of great stuff. But it also comes with some very drastic combat changes that are going to be affecting pretty much everyone, because the main focus of it is from and Lotus, I'm going to let you explain it in more details, because this is a very Endgame focused update to the combat. And I've never DPS'd in my life. And this is generally just there's a healing part of it as well, but this is mainly affecting the damage dealers.
You'd think it was destined to be that I picked up DPSing pretty substantially this year, and so I think you're right. I think I just doomed us all. I'm sorry in advance.
And you cursed it by using my mock-up version.
All right. We will not have any speak against Guaranir's great.
No, that's the problem. See, my RNG, I am cursed with anything pretty much. And you bringing my name... See, I started tanking in ESO, and tanking hasn't changed in ESO for 8 years, man. And you brought my name, even though if it was a mock-up version, in damage dealing. And hence, you brought my curse upon everyone. That's your fault. So live with that.
But you know what? I'm going to allow it.
So basically, Zas is trying. I'm not going to say tried, because this is not set in stone yet. Zas tried. No, I just said I was going to say tried. Zas is trying to limit or reduce the gap between endgame combat skill requirements, or like the amount of things that they can do, and the average player and or players with accessibility problems, which is a noble, great effort. I'm 100% behind it. And everybody in the community is also behind it. The problem comes from the way they are attempting to do that. Some people really agree with it. Some people really disagree with it. And what blew up the community was that both of these groups really went crazy at each other. Not everyone, but...
No, not everyone, but a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot more people than we are used to in Elder Scrolls Online community was a lot more heated about this. So before people could even start testing it and like start crunching numbers or getting feedback out, people were sort of already at each other's throats, which was weird to see in Elder Scrolls Online. Like, we saw instances of it, but this was on a much larger scale for whatever reason.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different reasons that this landed the way it did. The thing that I was telling a couple people, because for the most part, there's always, patch hits, it's the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. Everybody freaks out all the time and overreacts. And sometimes the stuff is merited and, other times it's really not. And a lot of times you just need to try it. But this reminded me a lot of, and there have been two times that I can think of that kind of paralleled this, except the brutal clash of people disagreeing seems a little more unique this time. But legitimate situations that paralleled this reminded me of when Morrowind was dropping and resources were being changed, and everybody was like, we won't be able to do damage, oh my god, I'll never be able to sustain, we're all totally effed, it's game over, man, the game is dead. And that did, from what I remember, change. It did require people to do different approaches to stuff and everything like that. It took a little adjustment, but surprise, it didn't blow up the game and destroy everything. And then, several years later, you look at how much damage had been increased and it was sustained forever. It's that's fine. But yeah, it was quite ridiculous at the time how over the top that was. The other thing I can think of was, I think it was Greymore when they tried to do the change to light attacks and heavy attacks so that heavy attacks were damaged, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it was after Greymore. Between Greymore and Blackwood. And see, that was a good way of testing a major change like this. I wish they did that with update 35 as well. Because with that change, they said, okay, this is an out of cycle testing period, and we are testing this weird idea. So don't treat this as if this is a planned change, but rather treat this as, let's see how it goes. So they worded that test a lot better than the update 35 period, I think, because they really that was a very weird change, or rather very drastic change as well. But I don't remember people being as heated as they are right now because of how it was worded, basically.
Right. They weren't at each other's throats about it as much. It was more of a huge, nobody likes this. This totally is not good. No bueno. And Kiz actually mentioned in chat that he's pretty sure it was Q3, right after Greymore, which puts it at the exact same place that we're at now, which is they launched the chapter, and then implement whatever this is, which is what I thought it might have been. But yeah, the thing about that was people didn't like that either, and as a result, they didn't do it. So the whole Zos never listens thing. Okay, well, that's not. Do they always listen? No. Should we always be listened to? Also, no.
Yeah.
But they do when something is clearly a problem as well. In that situation, nobody liked that change or whatever, so they didn't do it. For better or worse. I have no idea how people feel about that. I personally didn't care, but it was whatever to me. But yeah, so that was the situation. Now we're at this weird situation where it's listed as, I mean, we should probably just mention again for anybody not up to date on this, there's several major overhauls that are really the situation at the moment. Light attack damage, which accounts for a lot of people's overall damage in their rotations, is being scaled to a flat rate from being based on your stats prior to. So that's like a substantial damage nerf, because what it does, and the idea was it will lower the ceiling by making it so this weaving thing, which has been, a long-standing debate. I don't really want to get into the weaving conversation again. So plenty of people don't like weaving. I get it. But a lot of endgamers love weaving because it's a thing that requires a lot of practice and stuff like that. So the idea is there's less emphasis on weaving, so that in theory, you screwing up light attack weaving won't impact you as much. They're also changing the damage over time, or dots, duration to like this standard 20-second thing. So
as well as the buff timers.
As well as the buff timers. So the idea is that you can basically throw down these things, and you don't need to be as precise with keeping up times, because it's just this long ass uptime. and you use a light attack, and then you're spammable, and then light attack, spammable until you need to re-up all of your timers again. But as a side effect of that, they've changed the way that it's working on the ticks from the damage over time. So those have been adjusted. And as a side effect of that, damage is slower for the most part, is probably the best way I can try to explain it. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible, but it's slower, but for a longer duration. So in theory, it should hit for about the same, give or take. The problem is there's a lot of caveats to that. One, that the damage will continue to tick that entire time because, well, it would require the thing to not move in a lot of cases, like an area of effect thing. And if the boss is jumping around, it's not going to be in that. The other thing that's been brought up by people in chat, SD and Kiz, and, healing is massively being impacted by this because these are all well, not all, but most of these are heal over times. Well, these timers are now all over the place compared to what you're used to. So this has been standardized, but it's making these heal checks not so great. Like there's some serious
So instead of
now.
So now it just, the healing ticks are every 2 seconds instead of how they were like half a second ticks or 1 second ticks. Now it's just 2 second ticks, which means over the course of an extended period, you are getting the same amount of healing, but it's happening slower, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah. And so that's causing heal check issues, and then you're needing to pay more attention to that. So now damage is coming down, healing is fumbling around, and you basically have these checks that are now becoming substantially harder to hit in different instances. Now, for a lot of people, that's, not, if you're clearing something generally with ease, you're probably going to still be clearing it with general ease for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like if you get a trifecta on a dungeon or a trial and you have, 5 minutes to spare on the clock, you're probably still good. You know what I mean? Like you'll need to adjust. It won't go as quick. The score push scene, I'm sure, is going to be like, I mean, you objectively wouldn't be able to hit those scores anymore because you just objectively are going to be slower.
Yeah.
Like, there's also a greater chance of death and stuff like that. But so this is like, this is a pretty big issue there. Now, the big problem comes from, and actually I'm glad Kiz posted that in chat as a reference point, because I watched through Nephis and 8 Puppies and a whole committee of people do Cloud Rest the other day, but also there was another run apparently where they went into, which I heard them talking about, where a group of Planesbreakers went into clear Rockgrove hard mode on PTS and they couldn't do it in 3 hours.
Yeah. Okay, so to reference, what is the Planesbreakers?
Correct. Planesbreakers mean that you have the trifecta in Rockgrove. So you have done the speed run, all 3 hard modes, and the no death simultaneously. Mm-hmm. That same group now can't beat the hard mode.
Just the hard mode, not the trifecta, but just the hard mode. Yeah.
You literally, so for same example, they did eventually clear it, but Cloud Rest, the trifecta in Cloud Rest is called Griffin Heart. They had 12 Griffin Hearts go in to do just a clear Vet Cloud Rest +3, which is the hard mode. And it took them nearly 2 hours to get through it. The heal checks were a mess and people were having trouble trying to account for stuff. It took nearly 2 hours before they got through it. Now, these are, and they've even said, they're well above average players, but they're not even necessarily the world best score players. They're just very, very good, well above average type of thing. They're struggling, but can figure it out. The world's best are going to continue to be world's best. They'll just be less score based than they were before because they
honestly, like, I feel like all the scores and whatnot will get adjusted if this change goes through. Like,
well, sure, they'll have to update the leaderboards, but the all-time just leaderboards, I mean, they just stand because of people who have, like, oh, I did it during this patch, I'm just forever the best unless they bump damage back up. Like, if you get a nerf, you're just, there's nothing you'll ever be able to do to combat that type of thing. But then, you know, on that kind of way of thinking, okay, that's fine. Then take into account people like, I will classify myself as this group. My team has, or my various teams, because I play with lots of great people, I have almost all the perfectas in the game. There's a few trial ones and like a couple just stray 4-person things that I haven't completed, but I have the majority of it. I'd say I have like 85%. But it takes us some work. We're not leaderboard first all the time. I mean, we can be on leaderboards, but like we can be ousted by people who are better than us. It's like we aim for the challenge of the achievement, and then if we can get it for other people too, certainly awesome, fun, love helping people out. But I'm not the best of the best, like by any means. We're progging to get stuff. The current situation is if we're on the cusp of something, we are objectively now just straight up going to have a harder time at it.
Yeah.
If you can't do something, period, you now can't do it by a bigger margin because you're not getting any benefit from this. All of the nerfs are hitting the other end, but they're not helping the other side either. It's just knocking the top off. And it's just pushing everybody down. It's not actually bringing up the people who need that help. All it's doing is just saying, oh, I guess you can screw this up more and it won't matter as much. But it's like, well, yeah, but that didn't make you better, especially since everybody went down together. So it's not having the effect that is being portrayed that they're going for, if that makes sense.
So like, they are trying to bridge the gap between people who can weave and people who can't weave, people who can maintain short bursts of AoEs and buffs and whatnot versus people who can't maintain short bursts of AoEs and buffs and things like that, which the first one does require a higher APM, action per minute. So you have to swap bars through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, drop your skills, keep a lot of skills in check so your uptime is high. And that does require a certain level of, manual dexterity, like a lot more maybe hours put into the game, practice and things like that. However, from what I've seen, and I'm not an endgame player, and I've never done like a trial trifecta or anything like that, is they are trying to bridge this gap between high dexterity practice APM players and people who don't have high dexterity APM and practice, by not giving the latter anything to reach the top. So the way I see it, what they should have done is add more options to the game that can achieve higher stats or damage or whatever without requiring, higher APM, higher dexterity stuff. That would have been an accessibility update, and get the lower, below average or average players to the higher tier. However, as you said, from everything I understand, at the moment, they are just removing the higher APM play entirely from the game. So whether if you are able to do that or not able to do that, you are no longer doing that damage, which...
Correct.
Which relieves the players who were not there still not there.
Correct.
It's an odd thing.
Right. So, and actually it was brought up because I wanted to specifically address it, because Keek is actually onto something from chat. I do think that the hot changes and light attack changes, although shifting a lot of stuff up, will it make it easier to do a rotation? Objectively, yeah, there's less to do. So it's easier to do it. But one of the things that I specifically wanted to mention in regards to that, because I agree, I'm like, maybe that's where some of this mix-up has come in, and Zos is now becoming aware of it as like the yes, that's true. It is making it simpler. The problem is kind of that there's more to it than just that. There's two sides of this which I've heard articulated. The first side of this is, as a result, you have a lot more downtime. So instead of refreshing dots and weaving so precisely, which is still, going to help you objectively, it becomes a lot more about get your dots on target, and then you use your spammable attack, which would be like jabs or whip or whatever. There's all claw. There's all sorts of stuff for different classes. But the idea is you are using that more because you're not juggling these uptimes. Well, okay, that's simpler because that's one button click as opposed to making sure this is up and things are falling off and stuff like that. As somebody who's been working at getting better at DPS, I totally understand that. That is absolutely true. But the side effect of this, which I feel like they thought would happen, and maybe there's a misconception, and from running with so many different varieties of players from all different skill levels, just because you're having an easier time with your rotation, by default, that should mean that you would pay less attention to it and can focus more on mechanics, which is kind of what they seem like they want you to do. If you don't just get, you still need to put the effort into learning the mechanics to these dungeons and trials. Just having an easier rotation might give you the window to pay attention more. But people get tunnel vision and get smacked by all these things that are being telegraphed all the time. And unfortunately, the default answer to most groups, this is most that I've encountered, let me put it that way, because I don't want to classify everybody into this, as it's not. But a lot of groups, the answer to that is, we need more damage. No, not necessarily. You need to learn how to do it. Now, the less times you have to do something, the less chance there is for you to screw it up. So that's the benefit of burning past mechanics. But if people don't know how shit works, they're gonna keep dying to it. And like, there's another part to that skill thing other than just the damage thing. So on a base level, I get it. Make the rotations easier so that they can focus on doing the actual content as the difficult part. I don't know that will necessarily relate, which is kind of sounds odd, but just from so many progs, you can... Without sounding condescending, because I've actually done it too when I was learning DPS. I've screwed it up plenty of times. You'll get so focused on what you're doing, people will occasionally be like, block, if it's a good trial lead, they'll be like, teaching people to block now, block now, block now, giving you a heads up that the block is coming, and then say the dragon will swipe across you on the final of VSS hard mode, and 5 people go flying because they weren't blocking. It's like, dude, nobody can block for you. Block. Like, what do you do? Like, but it's that mentality of getting stuck in exactly what you're doing. It's, the tunnel vision approach, which this in theory could help with, but I'm not sure that this is just going to be that type of fix necessarily, because it's not helping you do the mechanics. It's just giving you less shit to organize. But you've still got to put in that that emphasis and everything like that. It's just like, you still need to put in all of the effort and practice and learn this stuff if you want to clear it. So that's a little side thing that I'm kind of very curious on. The other one, before we can move on, is, I don't personally have this, but I always say that I like potato play, where I just pick my thing and I do my thing, and it's just like rinse and repeat. I like repetitive tasks. Spoiler alert, like Diablo, clicky, 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 super fun to me. Like, I love that stuff. So like jabs, dude, jabs for days. It's just so much fun. I just love jabbing stuff. It's like,
I'm the exact opposite. I can't. For me, there has to be weird stuff happening with...
Yes, you need to be engaged.
Yeah.
I get engaged by spacing out. It's like we're at the exact opposite. However, like the big thing is, which I've heard from a lot of endgamers who are the ones really pushing practice and they get this stuff down. The thing is, their rotations just became, okay, ... spammable, when they're used to doing all these things to keep them engaged, they're now not doing any of that.
They are not, like, the entire endgame community is now heavily understimulated.
Exactly. So from their side of things, they're bored AF in this new combat system. To me, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm all about this. Like, it's so great. What do you call it? But I totally understand why that's a huge turnoff to a lot of people who prog stuff. Like, I feel like maybe I'm kind of an anomaly in that department, where I really like to prog hard stuff, but I like to do it in the most brain dead possible way I can, which is weird. But that's a huge complaint, especially with all of the classes being so hybridized as well, where it's like,
yeah, I was gonna say, being like
everything's becoming very, very. Man Cave was the one who brought it up when he joined. Was, well, you're kind of starting to lose class identity, and that's not something that I personally care about, but a lot of people do. So it's becoming very, very, very cookie cutter. Which again, play your way. Because all of it's the same? Is that what they're going for? Like, it seems I don't know. Weird.
It could be. And I know, like, Kika is like, she mentions the class identity a lot as well. And earlier she commented, I just never managed to get to it, but I'm going to read this. So she said, I have the feeling they're trying to change too much at once, which contribute to people being annoyed. I wonder if the reaction would have been a lot less if, all these changes hadn't happened at the same time. And yeah, like that, first they, as you said, got rid of not got rid of it, but sort of made it more pointless, the class identity. I mean, it's still technically there, but now you don't really need it
really uniform.
In a way.
Right. It's more of a flavor than anything else.
Like, for a lot of people who want to engage in this stuff, and I guess the end gamers are that, it's like one of the great fun part of it is being able to come up with something that the others have not came up with. Like, you create something unique. It's your build. It's your way of playing. It's your play style. You create that and you go with it, and then that's you. That's your character, your play style, you. But if everything just happens into one single play style, then, like, where does the theory crafting stand? Where's the unique play styles? It's just, as you said, like, yeah, play the way you want, and that's the one way. Like,
it's because there's one way to play. So yeah, that's just like, it's a little strange. And on that note, because I it's weird, I'm kind of like of two mindsets with the thing you had just mentioned from Kika in chat. Thank you everybody for chilling in chat with us and throwing stuff out here, because it's actually great reference points, because there's a lot to keep track of, and I keep worrying that I'm going to lose like my focus on some of this stuff because there's just so much to talk about. The thing about there's too many changes at once, I do agree with that. But it's weird because I'm kind of a weird, like, two mindset on this. If they want to just dump all of this at once, maybe it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. And it's like, all right, let's just get it done with. Like, dump it all off. But there's one huge thing about that, and this will relate very strongly to me. So this is one of the few things that I actually do have a strong opinion on, whether or not, I don't know, whenever I've kind of alluded to it, people have agreed, so maybe it's not just me feeling this. But I have no problem with letting the game just play how it is, and I find it fun to just adapt to it within a degree, but I like progressing through stuff. The story, the new card game that I learned that I was like, this seems mediocre, and then I was like, this is really fun. I actually enjoy this. PvP, whatever. It doesn't matter. I just enjoy what ESO has to offer. And if I don't like something, I tend not to do it as much. Pretty simple. If they're going to do these sweeping overhaul changes because this is what they want the game to be, I'm personally fine with that. And if it helps more people get involved with it, awesome. I love the idea of getting more people to be able to do stuff and join in with things. Like, it's great. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of fun to be had, and I don't like people being excluded from that. As a side effect, I don't think, based on their track record, that ever happens. They do sweeping overhaul change, and then 3 months later we get a patch with a sweeping overhaul change. 3 months later we get a patch with a sweeping overhaul change. I am tired of progging how to play the game to prog the challenges that they're putting into the game. I don't have the time or interest to prog both, and I want to prog what is there. I don't want to prog how to learn to play the game at a decently high level every single patch. It is burning me out of the idea of Endgame. For the most part, I've actually sort of lost interest in doing trifecta stuff until they figure out what they're doing and can sit on something for more than one patch. Like, I'm tired of needing to redo everything to be able to, okay, well, if we do all of this, we will have the best shot at clearing this. And if you don't do it within that one patch cycle, you're on a perpetual clock of do as much as you can in 3 months, because you're going to have to relearn all this crap for the next ridiculously over-the-top change that they're putting into the game. And I don't want to do that. I don't like being rushed. Like, the only rushing I want is a speed run. That's the rush I want. Like, I'll rush to complete it. I don't want to rush to do all of it. And then if I don't get it, back to square one while we do. I'm tired of that. It's become exhausting. And it's just like, am I like throwing a tantrum? But no, I'm just gonna peace out for a bit. I'm just like, okay. I think I'm gonna take a hiatus from trifecta crap for a little bit. Like, and then once they settle on stuff, cool, awesome. Get to whatever end goal it is that you would like to get to, and I'm here for it. I would like it to involve the most people, but also not drop people who are already engaged in that type of content. But it's just both things being progged at the same time is too much for me personally. It's just like, I've just gotten kind of tired of it.
I've got a very grim idea though, and I was just about to mention this, and Ran in chat actually just brought it up as well. So he said, they keep making these changes because in a video game development, it's proved to actually keep people interested in the product. And that's the case. Change is healthy and necessary when a game is running close to like a decade. And the thing is, ZOS kind of proved that they are good at reading what the majority of their community wants, because they have proved that they have access to that data and can like keep the majority of the people interested. They know their target audience. And I mean, the most recent proving of this was the card game, when everyone was like almost against it, if not just neutral. And it just pulled it. It turned out to be one of the best features they implemented in the recent years. So they know their target audience. They have access to the data. How many people are doing achievement runs? How many people are doing procs? How many people are in the end game? How many people care about what parts of the game? And that kind of that's making me think that the money that they are earning is not coming from Endgame or at least like the trifecta level of the game.
Because I mean, we can also me. I don't even buy ESO Plus.
So the people who are able to do trifectas, at least on like the DLC trial or dungeon content, they are already on such a high level. Like, that requires such a high level that, first of all, a very small number of people are actually reaching that. Second of all, whatever you throw at them, they will find a way. And if not, they'll get bored and they'll leave. That doesn't matter. But if that number is so small that ZOS doesn't really try to keep them engaged at all anymore, then this change makes sense. Like, if the financial provider, like the money comes from 80% of the community that we don't really hear about, that play this game, like you said, with just like repeatables or, you know, on a more casual level, then this change does really make sense, because you just make the game or the content that is otherwise like more difficult, because once you bring the DPS down, the newer content will come out requiring less DPS. They will adjust it. So that's lost the train of my sentence.
No.
Finish up, but maybe you get the idea. So if that's the case,
I absolutely do. Yeah.
Then it's like a big oof, because they are going to continue to do this. They will bring it to more casual style, get rid of like more diversity, whatever, because that's their target audience, and it works. And it's just a theory, but from everything I've seen so far, it kind of makes sense to me.
I totally get that from a lot of angles. Like that totally makes sense. Like that totally, I can see that. But based on that, then, wouldn't making this content more accessible to people? So when these things come out, you have the effect of the challenges are tuned to the power creep, and then you knock the knees off the power creep.
Which challenges? That's the thing. Which challenges are...
The new trial, everything has 1 billion hit points.
Is it like on? Are we talking hard mode or just like the normal veteran
objectively,
side?
They keep going up regardless of what difficulty you're on. All of them are being scaled, like regardless. So like if you're looking at like now hard modes are crazy high amounts of health. Veterans, there's a lot of health. Normals, even still, if you look at the normal health bar of a lot of these things, they are so much above what the old normal health bars were. So they're accounting for power creep based on the system in play, regardless of which tier you just have on. Like, all 3 of those tiers are having it go up.
True.
So theoretically, knocking that power down is doing the exact same effect again, where it's like, well, okay, if they were barely skirting by, why even bother? Like, why bother making it difficult?
Unless they tried it this way for the last few, because they really leaned on, as you said, in the last few content updates, they leaned on to the idea of, okay, people are now doing, like, abnormal amounts of damage, right? The power creep, we couldn't contain it, because they did try to contain it in the past. I don't remember which update, but they tried to sort of like level it out, and people found some weird ways of overcoming that as well. So maybe they looked at the data of these like new trials and stuff that require, as you said, a lot more damage output or a lot higher skill play, and the data showed that was a bad idea. Time to scale it back down all the way. That's my point. Like, the past couple years of power creep could have resulted in it as a bad business plan, and now they're like, well, that didn't work out, so let's just rein it back down and do it drastically.
This is another thing, which is why I'm not the whole everything's the worst and everything's ruined. Because one of the things that I will say is if they are nerfing back the power creep, because they don't like power creep, and I get that. I've made my comments on power creep where I was like, just make me a god. I don't care. I've been around for 8 years. Like, I just have fun with this crap. But I get it. Like, that people don't want that stuff. That's fine. But the thing about this is one solution, theoretically, could be to adjust the content to match scaling back power creep. However, call it pessimistic, which I tend not to think that I am. They're not going to go through all that content and adjust it all. They're just not going to do it.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, some of them will be
nonsensical amount of stuff to do.
Like some of the content, especially their hard modes and whatnot, will remain unbeatable except the score pushers. So like, that's regardless of what they do.
And there you go. So this is exactly kind of what my point is. If that's the case, because essentially they're making trifectas substantially harder for, I mean, whether you can do them or not, they are objectively harder next patch. That is the exact opposite of the statement, we are looking for accessibility. Like, you have just gated off the idea of doing trifectas, which hold the minimal amount of rewards that we get out of doing that stuff to be even more exclusive than the hyper exclusive thing they already were. That is blatantly against what they say they're trying to do.
That brings me to the part I'm confused about. Like, all of these changes I can theorize about from like either a player or a developer perspective, that like they are doing what the data shows, they have a purpose, they want a more unified game, they want everyone to do Endgame, they don't want endgamers to do Endgame. I don't know, even that could be a reason. It doesn't matter. However, that's the part, like, I don't understand how this is an accessibility thing. That's the
Yes.
part. That's the part I do not understand. And like, I am in favor of all sorts of accessibility. Hack the game up and down, rip it apart, and place it back together. If it means more people can play it. Okay,
Absolutely.
more people
How
can
long have
enjoy
you talked
the way
about
we
the
are
color-
enjoying it.
The color situation. Like, you have been heralding that for literally years.
And I don't understand how this, like, to a degree I can. Okay, I can understand that definitely some people, either like due to physical, like dexterity problems, attention problems, mental problems, whatever, it is really difficult to juggle a endgame rotation. I can't do it, and I don't put in the work, but at the same time I don't put in the work because I am barely able to keep track of everything that's going on the screen in this game. I know even if I could do those rotations, I'm just gonna get blasted away in an endgame environment because I won't be able to tell what the hell's going on. So yeah, you can make those rotations a lot easier, which should be an option, by the way. Like an item set that doubles up your buff durations, but gives you something to balance that out. Like, accessibility should, in my opinion at least, I might be wrong about this, I don't know. But in my opinion, accessibility should be a play style of its own, rather than, oh, hey, we made the game so simple that now everyone plays at the same level. That's not accessibility. That's just that is to me kind of going lazy about it. You know, going lazy about accessibility. True accessibility, in my opinion, is sitting down and finding a fun and as effective solution to the problem that you are trying to solve. Could it be like manual dexterity, whatever, all those things. This update does not do that, in my opinion. It just, as you said, if someone, for accessibility reasons, couldn't do trifectas or hard mode or endgame content, they will still not be able to do it. It doesn't fix the problem. They will just have an easier time doing a rotation because of the increased buff time and everything like that. But that could be boring to them, as that doesn't solve the problem. And it's like, I don't know. Like, it should be an option. Maybe people want to, even if they have like a need for accessibility, maybe they want to achieve that same level despite the problems. But maybe some other people want to have like an alternative way of achieving the same thing. So you gotta create alternatives. That's the way to like go on about a proper combat design with accessibility in mind, and gamers in mind, casuals in mind, alternatives. What ZOS it is doing with this update, in my opinion, is that they are getting rid of alternatives and they are just putting it down into a single like box. And that box is accessible, yes. But that doesn't mean that's like the best way to go on about it. It's a more like lazy way of providing accessibility. So
and on the idea of the concept of accessibility, because it was brought up in chat and it's something I wanted to address too, was the idea of the Oakensoul ring, which I had been talking to you about a little before we started. Before any of this was launched, I had mentioned how I thought the Oakensoul ring was really a cool idea. Mm-hmm. And back when I started picking up DPSing, I had shouted out, and I'll shout him out again because I think he's a great content creator for builds and stuff like that. In my experience, was Duma Gaming with the 1-bar build. That was before the Oakensoul was a thing. It's just like, here is a rotation that will get you by, and you'll do some damage, and you can actually use it in group content and stuff like that. Are you going to be absolute top tier? Nope. But you'll have what you need to knock stuff out. And then as you get comfortable with that, or, you know, if you have some reason why you can't, it's still going to help you get through a lot of stuff. And maybe you can learn to expand out to a 2nd bar. Well, I thought that was great because, you know, he designed it for accessibility in mind because of, you know, you can check out his channel. I strongly suggest it. But for people with literal like physical reasons why they could not bar swap efficiently and stuff like that. So that's where this came from. And I was like, I'm lucky enough that wasn't the reason. I wasn't good. So I was like, well, I'll learn this way and maybe I can slowly get better. And I have to a degree. I'm still not crazy top tier, but like I can do stuff now as a result. And I expanded to 2 bars. This Oakensoul ring comes on the horizon. I'm like, this is awesome. I was like, this is a thing that bumps people up who can't do that or don't want to do that. Like, but it doesn't put you, well, when it first launched, people who were meta could also use it, and it was just like unnamed buffs. And I also have great buff uptime. This is just murder fest. Okay, that fine. They changed it so it became, different buffs. So it was like, okay, this is cool. But it's not going to I felt like it raised the floor for a lot of people a ton because you've got literally half the bar. You have 5 skills and an ultimate. And it automatically keeps all those buffs active. The detriment is that you can't use a second bar, but to many that's a benefit. Like if you can't bar swap for whatever reason, that could be a benefit to people, but the ceiling isn't as high as it could be because you don't have both bars. You can't optimize like that. That's fine because it gave you like this really useful, basically jump in power without going all the way to the other end where it's like, I'm completely off the rails. And then the thing was, it's like, yeah, a lot of this stuff is designed with the idea of like, oh, it's solo stuff. The Pale Order ring and things like that have been like very solo focused. This, we started messing around with like, okay, what can we do some group stuff with this Oakensoul ring and get some people involved? Like this could be kind of fun if we do this. But the thing is, because it's based on buffs, all right, well, it's going to take some planning. It's going to take some strategy. You can't just go in because if you're giving Warhorn to the people who are wearing Oakensoul ring, congratulations, you just wasted a war. Yeah. Like, what the hell's the point? Like, but if you want to account for that stuff and, okay, well, now you just got a whole new bunch of people who, if they want to put in that effort, has knocked out that barrier of that. Well, if they want to put in the effort to just strategize around it, bam, there's your accessibility right there. This is the ring of exactly what they're talking about. And they're nerfing it already.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Like that's
it just came out.
I can't understand the end goal of ZAS right now. That's the thing that's throwing me off, and that's why I didn't really comment on this. Because I don't understand what exactly they're trying to solve. And what exactly their solution achieves. I mean, I'm not experienced endgamer or a DPSer, so that also has a part in why I don't understand some parts of it. But the motivation behind it, I am just not convinced. To me, it feels like there are better ways to go on about this. And you see that, like, when you let the community work on those problems, instead of just, like, presenting your solution first, people come up with some great ideas.
Yes, they do.
I mean, even the current combat designer, Gilliam, used to be a community member theory crafter. He went from creating builds and combat stuff and crunching numbers to actually working on the design of the game. That's how involved some of these people are with this. So, like, I don't know, it's when a huge number of these people who are involved at this level with the game's combat design saying that this does not help the players that you want to help while really hurting everybody else, I'm like, I kind of lean towards agreeing with them rather than ZAS, where I do not understand what the problem that the thing is trying to solve. And
so here's my thing why I don't feel like this is like why I to start, don't be pieces of shit to each other.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
That has been generally, I still try to be at least moderately. This has been a goddamn embarrassment reading some of the stuff from you guys, like in the community. Obviously, not listeners for the most part, but
we should have mentioned this at the beginning. But like,
this has
people went weird with this.
Yes, like some of the stuff I've seen has been like abhorrent, and it's been like a huge embarrassment to be part of the community associated with some of the stuff that I've seen. So do not do that. Act like actual people talking to other actual people, please. But that aside, one of the things why I've kind of always have this sit back and I'm very curious approach to how it plays out is I don't know what this end goal is. At the moment, all of what we've said, I would like to think is at least valid. And that is how it is based on what we know. We don't necessarily know what the end point is. The start point probably, I mean, depending upon where you want to start it, the start point was whatever point in this adjustment thing you want to consider the start point. We're currently somewhere in the process and the middle of things changing. If we knew what the end point was, maybe this would make more sense.
True. Yeah.
But we don't. So all of the points that I've been trying to articulate might be stupid in hindsight when we see where we end up. Like maybe it's just like, well, yeah, if you didn't know this is where we're going to end up, all of what you said might have made sense, but we ended up here and they were going to do this. And, oh, you said that what are the odds they're going to adjust literally every single piece of content in the game? Well, look, they adjusted every single piece of content in the game. It's like, okay, well, foot in mouth, because like I didn't know that, but I don't have that information. So I'm just going on what I've been given. I, however, try not to get unreasonably wound up on the fact that I just don't have this information yet is really what I like to keep waiting and seeing. So that's, I keep waiting for them to give us the end point where it all makes sense. And we're just not there yet. So it's why I continue to just wait and see. But at least from the information we are currently sitting on, this doesn't seem...
It looks odd.
It looks odd is a great way of putting it. It looks odd. And I'm really... I really don't... Yeah, I don't know exactly, like, what it's going to look like when the adjustments change. And yes, personally benevolent, I think if they do just add stackable treasure maps, everything will pretty much just be fixed in ESO. I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it.
But again, like, that's the thing. I mean, that's why I mentioned that, like, light attack, heavy attack, roll reversal time. Because that was a drastic change as well, and they really articulated why they were testing that out. Like, that was a lot more in detail, that was a lot more understandable than the current debate, as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like we lack that on this.
Well, it seems like what they're trying to do is well-intentioned. It just doesn't seem like it landed, at least in week one of PTS. The other thing that a lot of people need to keep in mind is we are currently in week one of PTS.
Yeah,
that's a test server. The description is part of what it's described as. And people are acting like the game has exploded. Like that's
probably one part of the communication error, because instead of, so they probably, maybe, I shouldn't say probably, but maybe they thought, okay, let's release the information on update 35 combat changes, and then as we release PTS, we'll get more into detail of why we are doing what we are doing. But between the update 35 announcement and the PTS going up, hell broke loose.
Correct. And then
it is possible that all the people
continued.
that would have tasked with explaining all of this was buried under managing the chaos of, because it was like people were attacking the developers and,
which is
like
just
average players because of the change, and the people who were
just
for the
didn't
change
agree
were
with them.
attacking the end gamers like they do not have any right or like they are evil for providing feedback or criticism. And by the time anyone actually started putting out sensible comments on the topic, it was all chaos. Like everything sensible got buried under everyone fighting. Everyone else fighting with each other. It was
based before there was logical thought put into a lot of it. Because I don't think oftentimes some people even realized that they were actually on the same side of the argument.
Oh, yeah.
But because they were talking about different parts of it, they were like, well, you're the enemy. It's like, no, they're not. It's fine. Like, it's like, so that's just it. It got so wildly out of control with all of that so quickly, where it's like, yeesh, man, like that escalated really fast.
I mean, with this much chaos, there will be changes, but
oh, sure.
I am really curious about where those changes will lean towards. Will they double down on the changes and be like, we are doing this, that's it, and here's how we are doubling down? Get adjusted to it, like adapt to it? Or are they going to be like, okay, here's a middle point? Or are they going to completely go like, okay, yeah, we got some ideas from everyone's discussions and we are changing our approach completely, which they won't be able to do in like a couple weeks span.
Right.
But they could change their entire approach, so
the other thing based on this, because there's a few more things I want to just kind of touch on. I also want to specifically in regards to, I mean, maybe you don't agree with, the big thing is you don't need to agree with us. You don't need to agree with whoever. It's fine. This is the benefits of having an opinion on how you like the system to handle. It's a statement that I've said many times that a lot of people really dislike, but you cannot prove that everyone is going to have a fun time as much as you would like it to. It's not possible when people want different things. If I want all content in the game to be about the Ebonheart Pact and all Ark's content is supposed to be about the Eldmeri Dominion because he's a traitor. Look, we're not getting through this without at least one jab. You can't make us both happy at the same time, because objectively it can't be all of one thing and all of not the other thing. Like, at bare minimum, it has to be a compromise of 50-50. Like, you literally can't do 100% of both at the same time. But a lot of people in the community can't seem to see that it's like, not everything needs to be about just you. Like, yeah, if you're constantly getting snubbed, okay, well then, yeah, maybe this isn't the game for you because that's shitty. Like, okay, they're never giving me anything I want. Like, it's why I always say I get the frustration with PvP, because they're definitely on the back burner. But, you know, if regardless of this, you can't have something be all one way and all the other way at the same exact time. At best, you get a great compromise that fits, but sometimes that causes different problems. The one person which I wanted to mention, because you actually put it in our Discord specifically, who I feel has gone through with people in the Endgame community and has really articulated himself very, very well. I don't even agree with all of his points, but they're worded in a way that I think is very reasonable, and I totally understand his perspective. Is 8 Puppies from the community. He's a very good streamer. All of my interactions with him have been super, super helpful or just downright fun. He essentially wrote a dissertation on the forums. Going through point by point everything that he has found to be an issue, and then went to try to help by providing possible solutions, which is like the pinnacle of what they can use. He has also been very about look, we're not going to get anywhere screaming at each other. And actually, Kiz brought up Code and Sea Unicorn as well. I do know also had great forum posts as well. I didn't get through all of, I think it was Codes. I think I got through Sea Unicorn. But again, these are great forms of they're trying to help. Now, if you don't agree with something, like perfect example, I think jamming a spammable over and over again is fine. But that doesn't mean it's fine for everybody. Like that's totally And I get it. Their point makes sense. I understand. So it's like this is the type of useful feedback that I think will help provide a good compromise in the end, hopefully, where they find like some good that they can provide to everybody, which would be great because then everybody can at least hopefully have some type of positive effect out of that. But other than just mentioning that, one thing, the reason I specifically wanted to mention 8 Puppies is because I was watching them do the Griffinheart run, which he was on Portals, and he was on I believe it was a Maj DK. Yeah, no, he was on a Maj DK. He wasn't using Stamp DK. So they changed the passives and skills and stuff on Maj DKs going into High Isle. That was like a huge point of contention where everybody was all stressed out about DKs are dead, blah, 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 blah. And the main thing was it was their sustain apparently got crushed. I like my DK tank, but I do not DK DPS. Their sustain went in the toilet. That was like the big thing to try to like rein them in. And the patch note for them even said that the design was for DKs to struggle with resources. Like apparently that was some design choice, which I did find a lot of people be like, when was this a design? Like that's a weird design choice we've never heard of, but okay, again, fine. Taking that on face value, sure. The thing that 8 Puppies mentions in stream, and I was going to say, check out that VOD if you're interested in this. One of his statements was, my sustain in this patch is off the rails. I have no issues maintaining. Their changes are just undermined by their next patch. They change something and it feels like, and I know this is not true, sometimes I get why people don't think the devs play the game. I played the game with the devs a bunch. I know that's not true when we do vet trials and we do, so they do. Now, I don't know if they do trifecta stuff, but whatever. But I get sometimes from people not as involved saying, do they even play their own game? Because stuff like that seems like they're changing it just for the sake of literally changing it. Let's nerf their sustain. The following patch, their sustain is so good I don't even have to worry about it. Like, what the...
Can I bring up a weird point? That'll sound weird, but I'll try to explain.
Go for it. This whole conversation's pretty weird. So
the problem could be that the devs are playing the game more than they should. Because see,
like
when you are
too involved,
no, but the thing is, when you work on the game, you have an understanding of pretty much everything going on. So your play style is drastically affected by that. Because
you have so much knowledge of the systems.
Yeah, because you've been looking at it with like a tunnel vision every day as your job for the last God knows how long.
Sure.
So, and then you play the game for fun as well, but your play style is affected either by your knowledge, by your experience, by your hatred of it because you've been like looking at the same thing for 10 years as a job.
Sure.
There are a lot of variables that affect your playstyle of a game you made yourself. So it's, in my opinion, it would never be the same as a player playing the game as those play styles or the ideas that occur to them would never actually be the same. So maybe they are playing the game and they come up with certain problems for them that they think, okay, this is a problem, but that problem does not like match with the players, like a normal player's problem, or their solution does not match with the normal player's solution. It could. That's why it just occurred to me. I mean, it could be that the problem is they are playing ESO too much as well. It's just a theory,
kind of
but
an interesting. No, that's kind of an interesting point. One that I've never, because it's like maybe they're too knowledgeable in some aspects, especially because they're dealing with people like Nephis, Code, Sea Unicorn, Skinny Cheat. Like Charles is another one who, if you don't ever watch Charles' videos, just look up ESO Charles there. You ever want to think that you know what a good player is? Just look at it. It does like Vet Moonhunter keep hard mode in 15 seconds, I think. It's another level that is like incomprehensible to me how good you can actually be. So maybe that's interesting. That's something I never would have really. That's an interesting point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're throwing themselves off by doing exactly that. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, it's like they're too invested. But like all right. So next note on this idea, which I just want to bring up real quick. It's kind of like a two-part thing. So I don't want this to sound too tinfoil hat conspiracy theory-ish type of thing. One thing I wish they would do, but I kind of don't think they ever would. It would be nice if like we get the new trial and all these new players come in for this expansion, right? For High Isle or Blackwood last year, Greatmore the year before. Maybe like have more of this ready to go and in place when you get the influx of new people, rather than everybody gets it, everybody's kind of like doing their thing, trying the new trial, all this stuff, and then directly afterwards doing these grand sweeping changes directly after. I assume the reason they don't do that is because it wouldn't help sales. Because if people are complaining, like if there was all this discord or discourse happening right at launch, that would have really kind of killed a lot of the hype to High Isle, I think. Which logistically, why would you do that to yourself? But true. I just think,
or
gameplay-wise, maybe that would be a better strategy for players. I don't know if it would be better from their end. It might only be better from our end. But
or they could do it before the chapter. Like, they could let the discourse take its course.
Sure.
Before the chapter, so the new players don't see a community at each other's throat just 1 or 2 months into starting the game.
Yeah, so that's something that it's just like, and I don't think that's a wholly unique idea to me. Like, I don't think that's like, oh, here's this revelation I have. But the thing is, which relates back and why I wanted to mention before we get too far away from still on the endgame topic, is the idea that, like, the new trial was tuned clearly for the power that we were at. And now it's getting reined back after that. Like, Unchained Animals crushed it and got world's first trifecta. Also, awesome shout out from like TS Online to like point out that they got world's first. That's But now it's basically like anybody who was progging toward that will basically be going back a huge step to reprog it. It's just, I guess it's no more mentioning than I just think it feels weird. But also I kind of get it, because if I was going to launch something, I would want people to be excited about the new thing, not yelling at each other about all the changes. It's just, for the people playing, I feel like it makes it more jarring as a side effect. So you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely. I mean, we know they like every studio does this on a live ops thing. Whenever there's a new chapter, it comes with like an OP power thing, so people buy it, and then it gets nerfed back because OP breaks the balance of the game. It's just it is a live ops thing. It happens, and I can understand that they don't want to like have that heat at the launch of the game,
right?
But it also doesn't feel healthy to have that heat 2 months
directly
into the launch because it's a live ops game. Like, you want players to stick, so you want those new players to see the best sides of your community, so they continue to spend money on the game. But
yes, that's a good way of putting it.
If a player who started the game because of High Isle, or like learned about it with the High Isle, started with the High Isle, they'll probably be like, if they are dedicated, they would just be getting into Endgame. And they would start, like, in that 2 to 3 month period, that's when they would start Googling, like, ESO build makers, or theory crafters, or endgame PvP Dragon Knight build, or endgame PvP Dragon Knight Sorcerer build, whatever. And if they do that now, in this past couple of weeks, they will just see fights. They will see chaos rather than seeing the builds or what they're Googling for.
Correct. Yes, all you're seeing is drama vids from a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so maybe, maybe doing this not after the chapter, but like the patch before the chapter release, so by the time the chapter is released, this has died down, maybe? I don't know. But then again, they have like teams, I assume, working on exactly just this, like just a sales and marketing and PR team just focusing on this. God knows how many people. So, who knows? I mean, then again, I've seen I've worked at a studio of 100 people, and some of the decisions that were taken were so god-awfully weird that you would not like comprehend it. And then of course we have examples like CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk. So I guess being a AAA studio with hundreds of people doesn't always mean you make the right choices. It's I don't know.
Right. And then the only other thing, just because we had mentioned like an OP item or whatever, which we've had before, and some people like to pay to win.
They add a class line, skill line, and a new item. It's OP for like a couple months, and then it gets nerfed. It's the standard procedure.
One of the things, which is why I don't want it to be fully glossed over when we were talking about like the Oakensoul ring specifically. In PvE, I feel like it is a great spot, right where it is, not on PTS. It is great where it is, in my opinion. On PvP, it's kind of like required if you don't want to just get stomped. From somebody who is mediocre PvP and goes into Battlegrounds, which will go into my tales afterwards, and oh boy, does it make me look like I am good at PvP. So it's pretty much equal footing when everybody's using it. When I was in one game, and I feel bad because it's just, well, whatever. I might post the video at some point. I saved the video. I went in with some randoms, but I recognized 2 of them from one of my guilds, so I knew that they were like pretty good. We all had Oakensouls. I don't think anyone else in the match had Oakensoul. It was team deathmatch. We won 500 to 15 to 0.
Wow, okay.
We never died. Everyone on our team went flawless. And there was no communication. None of us were on mic. We literally charged at them like assholes the entire time.
I was going to say, a true bum rush. Like,
I literally was just like, buff, debuff, jab. And I was getting triple kill, double kill, quad kill, triple kill, double kill. And I was like, no one can stop me. I am not that good. Like, I'm just straight up not that good. It was abuse. And I'm like, dude. And the thing was, because all those things are active. I couldn't finish my first rotation, which is only 5 buttons because of the Oakensoul ring. And one of them's a buff on my thing. Like, I have a heal. So it's like, I couldn't get through 5 button presses and people were dead left and right. Like, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is way too over the top. Like, unless you count, but then the problem is, counterplay to an item should not be you also have to use this item and there's nothing else. Like, that's not counterplay. But actually, it was just brought up by Graham, and it was what I was about to talk about. And I had mentioned it before, and it's actually, I do suggest checking out Deltia's Gaming, his video on Oakensoul Ring, where he does Vatashran on PTS and on live right now, with both, with the Oakensoul ring, to show exactly the differences and what his opinion were on it. And I mentioned it in the comment section of his video, just because I thought it was a pretty good video. But it's the Battle Spirit passive. It is in the game. So for anybody who doesn't know, Battle Spirit is a thing that it goes on your character. You have Battle Spirit active when you're in a PvP environment. That's anything PvP related. You get this Battle Spirit thing. There are a couple sets that when Battle Spirit is active, said thing happens. Like, that's the set. So the set is objectively a PvP set. I have praised that idea where it's like, you figured it out. You figured out how to balance sets in PvP and PvE separately without balancing sets separately necessarily. However, it's very rarely used, and I understand in a lot of situations that have to go through all the sets with that. Not everything requires that by any means.
Yeah, but when you just apply it to the top meta stuff, exactly. Because that's all people are using anyway.
That's correct.
No one's gonna go in there with, like,
so when it comes to
freaking his spark.
Right. And so if you go to Oakensoul, there has to be a way to modify this thing. So that it's like, when Battle Spirit is active, fuck off. You get nothing. Like, you don't get any bonuses. Like, whatever. Like, whatever the thing is. I have no better way of putting it other than to, like, joke about it. But, like, whatever it is, like, you get nothing with this.
That's been discussed on Tales. True. Right. Every group of hosts this show had, every single group discussed this multiple times to have PvP and PvE balance separately. Yet we are at episode 313.
And, monetarily, I've always been like, I get it. Like, I know logistically why you can't balance them separately because there's so many resources. I was so impressed when they had those released with Battle Spirit. And I'm like, oh my God, a company figured it out. Like, they came up with a solution, and it actually makes total sense. But the thing about it was, and it was a point that I feel was very relevant during the episode, and I want to give him credit for it because I had mentioned this when I was talking to Man Cave when he joined, and he said the problem is if you use that too much, it's gonna lose its identity to the classes because they're basically gonna feel wildly different between PvE and PvP, which at the time I totally agreed with. However, now everything's been hybridized, and that's not a thing anyways. So who cares? Like, I feel like his point originally made more sense to me, and now through some bizarre turn of situations of sometimes when you look back at old episodes, it's like, it's weird some of the things the way they play out. To his point, the thing he was concerned about has been lost a different way. So, all right, maybe just go back to that board then and actually do that, because clearly it doesn't necessarily feel that way for people who care about that. They already don't feel that. So will it matter anymore? Like, it's rather than take away that. To keep going back to it, rather than take away that PvE accessibility of what I feel is a really great item for a lot of mid and low tier players. Not that you're bad players, but you're just not there yet type of thing for whatever reason, or you're overcoming something else. And that's your solution. It's I'm not going to lie to you. I'm hoping we can set it up before the end of, what do you call it? Before whatever happens to Oakensoul happens. I don't really want to talk too much about it, but we're in some. There was a Nephis thing where they actually did Vast +2, where everybody was in Oakensoul, and they cleared it, which is hilarious. And we've been goofing around with Oakensoul and a lot of weird stuff. So like, I like it, but we had to build around the Oakensoul ring as a concept. Like, it's not like we just, all right, we put on Oakensoul and we're just not going to change anything and we're suddenly the greatest. That's not how it works. Like, well, we still need to practice to do stuff.
That was the good thing about Oakensoul, because it did bring the lower to average tier players up, but didn't do it just by giving them like, okay, have this raw power. Well, in solo content it did, but as you said, in group content, they still had to put in some work, some planning. And that's how you get the game engaging. You know, that's the engaging thing of an MMO, of doing group content, that you plan, you strategize, you practice. I don't like I don't do progs because I don't like playing ESO every single day for several hours so I can clear whatever trifecta. That's not me. Sure. I don't play any game like that because I'm easily distracted and bored.
Sure, but that's not your thing. That play style should still be viable. And if everyone's doing trifectas because you reined it back down so much, there's nothing for those players to do because they have already done it. Because they're like, it's easy now so that everyone can do it. So they should have, like, the end gamers should have their trifectas and score pushing. That's why we have trifectas, that's why we have hard modes, that's why we have veteran, and that's why we have normal. There's the tiers of difficulty.
Across the board, we have like 4 or 5 stages of difficulty in the game. So I don't understand why this desire to bring it all closer together. Like, I loved it in the recent dungeons when they made hard modes so much more difficult than veteran. Like, we breezed through the veterans and then we opened hard mode and it was immediately like wiping the ground with our face and polishing it. It was like, what just happened here? Now I had something to work towards, you know, because then I had a challenge. And it's like, if I don't want to put in the work, it's whatever. I mean,
right. But then if you get these other options in which to practice that, I love that idea again, because then it's like, well, then you have that, the word of the day, you get that accessibility to get there to then practice the mechanics or the challenge of that. Yeah. But removing said other thing or whatnot. And it's like
if I can't put in the actual physical practice into it, maybe I can put in, like, I can sit down and strategize and come up with a better build. If I don't want to do that, maybe I just want to spam 5. That's how I want to do my dungeons. I just want to spam 5. For a lot of people, that could be boring. But I should be, like, I should sit down, practice whatever that requires, and at least attempt it that way. I don't know, just spamming 5 was a bit of an exaggeration, but like...
No, I know what you mean.
But basically our current model of Update 35 changes is what I mean. It's like... options. That's my main thing, I guess. I get annoyed when they remove existing options and alternatives from anything. Doesn't even have to be a game. It can be software, it can be a kitchen appliance. Don't take away my options, man.
Yeah. And like to the point of like some great things being brought up in chat, like you really can't, you know, they're trying to reduce the gap sort of quote unquote artificially in some situations, and you can't really change players' behavior, but you can change these things, like, so they're hoping that maybe that would help. And that those are super good points. But like the one thing that I like think of is I mentioned the Nephis run where they did vast that Asylum Sanctorum for anybody who doesn't know. +2, if everybody goes in Oakensoul rings, you don't just get your silver skin. That's you're not going to just walk in there and crush it, because if you don't know where to stand, how phases work, how you have a ballpark idea of where the timers are going to have mechanics go off. The fact that if I were to tell you, Ark, I was going to say, I want you on off tank and you're going to be interrupting.
I don't
mean anything to you?
No, I mean, I'll just look for something to interrupt, and it could be a random orb, it could be a mob, I don't know. I'll just look at things like doing those, in heavy attack shines, and I'll interrupt. I don't know. I've only done like +0 aside.
That's exactly my point. Now, if I handed you an Oakensoul ring and you're like, cool, I've got the Oakensoul ring, give me my silver skin, and you walked in there and you got your silver skin because it just did all the mechanics for you, okay, that seems problematic that it's that over the top. All this does is just allow for leeway of other stuff that people will struggle with, but they still need to learn what to do in the trial.
Yeah.
So like the concept of here's less shit to micromanage so you can focus on other stuff, I get as an idea, but you can't make people just magically want to put in that effort. It's still on them to do that.
In his essay, like feedback essay, 8 Puppies had a like very good point, sentence, whatever thing. He said it's so the progression, I am like drawing from memory, but it was something like the progression is not about, or rather the trial mechanics or dungeon mechanics are not about like see and react, but rather learn and predict, or learn and expect, or something like that, basically.
Yeah.
So regardless of how much time, like off time you have during your rotation, if you don't do the mechanic enough times, you will only be able to dodge it or block it or do such things so many times before you wipe, just by seeing and reacting. You have to do it enough times that you react before it happens, because you are about to react. And that was a really good point. That's the whole point of the concept of running trials and dungeons. Because if that was not the case, all the trials and all the dungeons you put into the game would have just a single play value. The thing that brings replayability to an MMORPG is the fact that you have to do things multiple times, so you learn it over time, and then you overcome it over time. If you take that away, there's no point of an MMORPG. That's why I'm not an MMORPG player by default. I mean, Elder Scrolls Online is the single exception in my life, because I hate repeating stuff. I absolutely hate it. I don't do my dailies, my writs, I don't do progs. Screw repeating things. That's why I don't play Dark Souls games either, because Dark Souls is the same. You do it enough times.
Of patterns and
you just die, and eventually you overcome it because you memorize the entire thing. So I don't know, just strange. I wonder. I'm curious about the hierarchy of decision making when it comes to combat in ZOS right now. Like, are there? I wonder if there are like two different teams that come up with different ideas at the same time, and they like override each other at certain points. Because as you said, like Oakensoul was a good solution to a problem that is now getting removed, and now we are getting a different solution to kind of the same problem in a way. Like, did Oakensoul not work, or did it work too much? Like, what happened there? Why didn't?
Oakensoul will still probably be fine for single player stuff, but like again,
but I'm, just as an example,
but you're right.
We were introducing an item to solve that problem, which was a good idea. Maybe not Oakensoul, but another item.
But change the system. Like what?
But now we are changing the system, and we had already changed the system to hybridize things, and then it's like, where are we going? What is
Yeah.
Too much.
It's too many. It's consistently too many changes for me personally. Like, it's just like, it makes me want to just do story and casual stuff. It's what it makes me want to do.
Man, if I was a DPS, I would have quit ESO a long time ago, I think. Like, now, thankfully, my playstyle has not had a change in 8 years.
Doesn't change too much, yeah.
Yeah, the last time it changed, like, significantly, I mean, obviously there are new sets and whatnot, but last time it changed significantly was when we swapped from Magicka to Stamina. That was it.
Right.
It's like, they said you cannot regenerate Stamina while you are blocking, and that was the change.
Yeah, it's like, and man, perma-blocking.
Yeah, and then 7 years later, it's like, yeah, I still don't perma-block, but everything else I do is the same.
Yeah. And it's like, that's just it. And that's, to that point from 8 Puppies about the like memorization thing, it's like the big one is like tanking in Black Rose Prison, which again, I'll have stories of a fun run we had recently where there were people in the group that weren't experienced with Black Rose, and we were just running with them. And me and Neo from Thracian Stranglers, our trifecta team, were like, oh yeah, just follow us around. And they were like, oh, we're like, yeah, we're gonna lead you to the spawn order. And it didn't click until we said it that it's like, that sounds really weird, doesn't it? Because it's like, we are running to where the things are going to spawn in the order of priority, and I'm chaining before the things have spawned just to pull them toward me so that we can cleave them down. And I'm like, if you like, all I'm thinking back to is the first time I tried tanking Black Rose Prison, and I'm just like a deer in headlights because there's spiders spitting and arrow sprays, and I'm like, oh, there's just stuff flying at me everywhere. And now I'm waiting at spawns before the things spawn while trying to chain stuff that hasn't spawned yet. It's like, it comes from the repetition. Like, you learn what you want to do. So. Yeah.
Another thing is, now that like Kika brought up add-ons, and like there's an interesting conflict as well. Some people are saying the V-Wing, the advanced mechanics, the upkeeps of like resource, these things should be taught in the game. And then there are people who are saying no. That would be problematic. And I don't really understand that as well. Why? Like, why can't we teach advanced mechanics in a game 8 years old? I feel like we should, at this point, start doing that,
I would be fine with that being added as well, because I think that would help a lot of people. I mean, the amount I've gone into, the way add-ons and stuff like that benefit and don't benefit, all sorts of things, and all those things. It's like my thoughts on specific add-ons aside. One thing that I think is a good point to add-ons is, it provides information that oftentimes you would have no other way to get. Now, there's different add-ons to different degrees of things I kind of have issues with or whatever. And I always say, like, look, you play the game how you want to play. Like, I get that. That's fine as long as it's not necessarily impacting me. I don't like the things that necessarily impact me if I don't want to. But having that information, I think, is very interesting. Because like sometimes like you might not even know something's there because the game doesn't tell you, but an add-on theoretically could tell you that, and then you would know going forward. A lot of times though, it's not so much people use the add-on to learn the thing. I think they use the add-on to just then not think about it because
execute
it's there.
The action. Yeah,
correct. But that doesn't diminish. Like, I don't mean that to sound like diminishing to that like point by any means, but it's like that can provide you valuable information that the game doesn't tell you. So like that,
now that you mention it, like Raid Notify, a lot of the things that come from Raid Notifier, I do not know what the indicator for is in the game. Like when you're about to get the Hoarfrost, a raid notifier goes, you're about to get Hoarfrost, prepare yourself. I don't know what getting Hoarfrost looks like. Like, what is the way the game tell you are about to get Hoarfrost other than raid notifier?
So you get these little...
I just realized.
You get this little sprinkly snow effect start to spawn around you. And I was going to say, it might even tell you like something about being cold or something like that.
Okay. Like a voice line or something, or on the screen.
But it's on the screen. Like, same thing with like one thing that a lot of people don't know about or use. Whatever, there's an add-on on PC I know about. But with the bar swap mechanic, same trial in Cloud Rust, where you have to swap your bar because your weapon gets overcharged.
Yeah.
When that's about to happen, you actually get a couple brief ticks of like sparks will pop out of your character.
Okay.
And it's prepping you because you're about to be one. And then when it happens, it actually will say in text, your weapon is overloaded.
Okay.
So that's how you're supposed to know to switch to your back bar. So that's how the game kind of telegraphs what's about to happen. The only thing I will say, and it's not so much a thing I encounter on next gen, sorry, last gen, but occasionally there will be a problem of too much stuff is happening and it might not show that to you.
Cool. I mean, I don't see that's one of my problems. That's why I'm saying like all the achievements I have, I would not have them on consoles, because all those effects you just mentioned, I don't register them, as I mentioned many times on the show. I am dependent.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone, dude.
On Code's combat alerts to dodge heavy attacks, because I have playing ESO for 8 years. There were only just a few occasions where I was able to see those like little
sparkly
light sparkles on an enemy's head before it heavy attacks you. I don't know, it's just. But when I see Code's combat alerts like that bar show up, even that I sometimes ignore and get slapped. But that's like, oh, I'm about to get hit by something. I don't know what it is, but I'm about to. So, and I guess, I don't know, maybe like to make things more accessible, going back to the thing.
Yep.
Maybe making these mechanics more understandable and more obvious is a better way to go than trying to get people to not look at their skill bar and look at the screen. Because I don't look at my skill bar because I don't need to, because I've played as the same freaking stamina DK for the last 8 years. My skill bar never even changed. I can take like a 6-month break and I have it memorized. My muscle memory kicks in. But I don't see what's on my screen. That's my problem.
Right.
So like making my rotation, you can turn my rotation into a one button. Like I could just press one and everything happens that I need to do. I will still die because I don't see what's happening on my screen and I don't see the cues. So maybe a better way to do it, make them more obvious. At least in my case, just from like an eyesight based. I actually don't know if it's an eyesight problem or an ADHD problem that I just don't start or rather stop registering that the stuff on screen after a lot of visual effects pop in. But like,
Kika's mentioning the same thing though. Like that, she's mentioning the same thing because I know she's got the issue with like the light and stuff like that. And there's 10 billion friggin' effects going off and stuff like that. So it's like, that's why, as much as I like to kind of dunk on add-ons, usually jokingly type of thing, just because I'm like, I don't use them, it doesn't bother me, like whatever. But it's one of those things for situations like that type of stuff I get. Like I get it, because there's no, like, if you can't see something and there's a way to physically see it, well, cool. Like then that fixed it for you. You can see it. Like I get it. Like that's a good thing. So like that's the type of accessibility I like. It's like I've got this reason behind this thing and there's a solution to it. It's kind of weird to me, and maybe that's why, that add-ons are are the solution to a lot of that. Where I'm like, well, that's not even really part of the game. So like that's kind of bizarre, because then it starts getting what's considered cheating, what's considered exploiting, because they're, you know, we're not going to go into an add-on thing, but like the big one of controversy as of late was the one where the raid lead could stop DPS.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Okay, this will be quick because I don't want to get super into this. There was an adjustment to an add-on. Somebody might be able to let me know the add-on name in chat. But basically, for the DPS checks that happen pretty frequently in the new Dreadsail Reef trial, there was a add-on where instead of the raid lead, which is something that I don't envy, them being like, okay, stop DPS, go to this, or, you know, hold off DPS, we're going to do this mechanic, whatever, don't push because we're going to trigger the next phase or something. The raid lead could literally turn off everybody's DPS. So they just straight up can't attack. No chance of overburn. Apparently it was Hodor reflexes. Thank you, Kika. Is that exploiting?
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say, because that's like...
I mean, you're literally changing the mechanics theoretically, but at the same time,
how open is their freaking API?
But this is what I'm saying. So this is why I'm kind of always on like this weird thing where I'm like, it sounds super sketchy, and I don't advise cheating, especially against other people. But sometimes when I'm told like, oh, be careful, that might be considered an exploit, I'm like, what? Who cares? I was like, I'm going to do what I want if it's in the game.
That they
other than just straight up cheating, like, oh, I got 5 people in a 4-man dungeon. Okay, well, that's just, you're cheating. Like, that's not the same thing. But like, oh, you can get too many loot drops from this boss. I'm going to get all those loot drops until they take it out. That's not really my problem. For example, as far as I know, it's still in the game. I'm not super up to date on it. I just know that it was a big thing because even add-on users were kind of like, this is a little far.
That is... everything aside, the fact that an add-on can intervene to that level is what I'm dumbfounded about, because that's like, for add-on things, you open up a limited API that people can play around with. You don't open an API that can literally stop me from playing.
Well, like, see, this
maybe I am it doesn't matter. Maybe I'm an asshole and I want to continue doing DPS and fuck it up for 11 other people. It doesn't matter. Like, an API cannot stop someone from playing the game. What is this? That is so strange. That is wild. Yeah. Oh my god. I am amused and sort of like dumbfounded. Oh man, I did not expect that.
So we're gonna move on past that. You know, feel free to send your own opinions in on that. I don't want to get into that. This show's already been like 2 hours long, and it's like I don't have it in me for a huge add-on discussion again. But that one I felt was worth bringing up, where it's just like, it's a bit of a gray area is all I was implying on what is and isn't. And that's why I'm always curious, like, what is and isn't considered too far a lot of times. And some things you should know are too far. I made the quick reference to like the 5 people in a 4-person thing. That, I don't know, I think that's been fixed. Hopefully that's been fixed. But that was a legitimate thing for a while, where you can bring 5 people into 4-man content. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, that's just like, it's designed for 4 people, and you literally found a way to basically glitch another person into the arena. It's like, that sucks.
Come on, guys,
like,
I can squeeze in. I can squeeze in.
Right. So it's like that type of thing. I'm like, okay, that's not okay. But like, you know, drops being screwed up in your advantage, or, oh, we can get this. this, I don't know, maybe this will be too far for some people, but it's like, oh, we can get this boss stuck on this rock while we tee off on them. Well, is that okay or is that not okay? Because it's not intended, but that's what the AI it gets so gray area. I'm kind of just like,
I mean, the basic answer is whatever the developer is saying that it's an exploit, it's an exploit. They can say, hey, DPSing is no longer allowed in ESO, and DPSing is no longer allowed. Yeah, it's
valid, 100%. So like,
they have total control.
Correct. So I'm always of the mindset of it's fair game until I'm told it's not fair game, and then the punishment is on me. Like if I found something that I'm using to my advantage and you're like, knock that off, and I continue to do it, I don't have the right to then be like, well, I didn't know. Originally, I might not have known, but once you told me, I knew, and I continued with it. So that's why I'm always like, your first strike should be kind of like, okay, you had your fun, knock it off. And then if you progress past that, it's like, okay, well, now you're choosing to do what the devs say you can't do in their product. Because as much as people like to take ownership, it's their thing. Granted, we have purchased it, but it's their game to run. So
I mean, there's a reason you collect all the I agree buttons while purchasing it.
All of the I agree buttons, which nobody generally reads, and I do, and it takes me forever. And some of the stuff you agree to is really funny when people complain about things. I'm like, you objectively said you were fine with this happening, and now you're yelling about it. But yeah. So how about that?
Fun.
Yeah, that was a nice and concise 2 hours.
Yeah, honestly, we had such a drought of things to talk about up to the launch of High Isle that I missed discussing something like this. Like at the end of the day, for me, it doesn't really matter. Because I don't do Endgame, I don't do DPS, I play card game right now. That's like, that's my thing now in ESO.
And to that point, though, like, I'm with you.
Yeah, I am glad we finally got something to discuss in detail that took 2 hours. I just wish it hadn't split the community like it did in the past couple of weeks.
Agreed, yeah.
This would have been a lot more enjoyable topic to discuss had that been the case. But
correct. And that's just it. It's like you like these discussions, but you like them from more of a positive angle, because I do too. And even I'm involved with all of this stuff. And yeah, there's plenty of stuff, as I would hope I articulated at least moderately well in the last 2 friggin' hours of this. If it turns out that I'm not really enjoying that stuff, then I'll just wait. I'll chill for a bit and then go back once they settle on whatever it is they settled on. More DPS, less DPS, whatever the case. Whatever. As long as I don't need to keep refiguring it out in between every patch. That's really all that I just don't want to do anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, tomorrow will be the first week of PTS. So I expect there will be some, at least, maybe not a patch, because I think Kiz mentioned that the PTS patches come in like week 1, week 3, week 5.
It's
so every 2 weeks.
Notable changes, notable changes. It's like every other cycle,
But I think next week we'll have some communication between Zas and the community.
Yeah, like hopefully.
I don't think they'll just go like radio silent for an entire week while this whole thing is going on. And then based on that back and forth, next Monday I assume there will be some adjustments, and we'll see whether people like them or not, and where this whole thing goes. But yeah. Long story short, do not like feedback, criticism, whatever. All those things are okay. But at the end of the day, do not forget, this is a game. It's not worth attacking people. It's not worth harassing people. Yeah. It's just not worth it. Just come on,
chill out.
People are allowed to criticize this. Developers are allowed to do any changes whatsoever they want. Like,
you don't like them.
On one side, you have private product owners. This is not a government property. This is not a public property. It's a private property. It's an intellectual property. They are allowed to do whatever the hell they want with it. On the other side, you have paying customers. They are allowed to criticize
absolutely
the product that they are paying money for and spending time on it. So, it's just, don't get overbearing,
I don't know. At this point, with how everybody's acting, don't get overly emotional.
Yeah. That's the thing.
You can condense it to that. Just rein it in a little bit.
Yeah.
But so there's the news.
That's the news, I guess. Was there actually any other news? I have no idea. I was too focused
I think that
on
was everything. To be fair, my brain couldn't possibly take it any more than all that. That was all that I retained from the news.
I was gonna go into so ESO Tavern will be happening at Cologne. They opened the wait list for the tickets. I registered. I still don't have my visa. Because
damn it, get that visa.
Yeah, it's everything. String. Normally it's supposed to be like 15 working days maximum, but thanks to the COVID and the holiday season and everything, it's just dragging the hell out, and it's driving me insane. But yeah, hopefully I will be there, because there is no visible reason for my visa to be denied. But I don't know. There's still a month and a half, so I think I'll be there. But we'll see. Anyway, so that's the thing. Other than that, let me just log into the website of ESO just to make sure we don't skip anything. Yeah, that looks to be about it. Yeah, okay. So that means we can have a break before we roll on to our tales. But before our break, we have some shout-outs to do. Starting with, of course, everyone who's supporting us over at patreon.com/UESP. This past couple weeks, because we skipped the show, we have Tabor and William Cord joining the ranks of the patrons over there. I hope you enjoy the rewards that you will be getting, because there are awesome Elder Scrolls rewards there, and you get to support your favorite Elder Scrolls documentation and wiki, which is the UESP, and us at the same time. So definitely go check that out. And we also have 2 new iTunes reviews. Both of these are 5 stars. And that really, really helps us. Starting with, this is from Yimi P, titled Best ESO Podcast. Thank you very much. Ark and Lotus are excellent hosts that cover anything ESO, whether it's recent news, Overland solo content, or even the hardest content the game can offer. Well, Lotus does that. I don't. He is the Endgame liaison here. I am the I don't know what I'm doing part. No matter that ESO player you are, you'll find this podcast to be the most inclusive to any playstyle. I'm glad I'm not alone in enjoying the longer recording sessions at 3+ hours, because I usually work 10-hour shifts in a lab and have been blasting through each episode. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it, because today is going to be another 3 hours episode, it looks like.
You got a doozy.
So, yeah, this is on point. This is on brand. And the second one is from Agent Celery. I love that name. Perfect Elder Scrolls podcast. I just want to thank Lotus and Arcaneer for getting me through my long commutes with their dumpster fires. I began playing the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall with my parents when I was 11 years old. Hearing people talk about the series I have loved since I was a child is amazing. Keep it up. Thank you both so very much. Hearing stuff like this is why we continue to do this, and why we continue to record several hour long episodes, and we plan to continue to do so. That's it, Lotus. When are you starting Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall?
So, well, funny enough you say that. Well, first, Agent Celery, thank you so much for the review on Lorecast as well. It seems like Agent Celery has actually just recently found our little podcast
nice.
Stockhold, so I'm so glad that they're enjoying. So I have been wanting to start Daggerfall, and because of some time constraints, it's been tricky. However, because of some more extreme time constraints / not series burnout, but burnout in regards to game overhauls, which I had made reference to earlier, I'm finishing up the couple projects in ESO that I'm currently progging. And then I think I'm pretty much just going to be on casual story mode, fun time in ESO, and just like stuff like that doesn't require diligent practice, which I do enjoy doing, but until they settle on just anything.
Also, wait, did you start rolling into your tails or not?
No.
Okay.
I just made reference to it earlier that I was kind of like burnt out on the whole constant changing thing. I will hopefully be starting Daggerfall on stream for everybody soon. That's my goal, because I will have much more time, being that I'm in many fewer procs.
Yeah, I miss hearing you suffer in classic Elder Scrolls games. Like, I am having withdrawals of it, so get to it, man. Get to it. And we will get to our tales, but that will be after a brief break, and we will return with all the good stuff that we've been up to in Elder Scrolls universe in the past couple weeks. See you all in a second. And we are back. And during the break, we have another shout out. Well, a 50 shout.
Yeah, I was going to say 50 shout outs.
We have 50 shout outs to do since the break. Basically, our beloved community member, SCDLC, who's been one of the longest supporters of the show, of DCN, of us as individuals,
whether it be all of my charity stuff.
Yeah, or whether it be like our stuff or charity stuff, everything. Just dropped 50 subs in chat because we do this live. And yeah, so we now have all the emote slots unlocked. We just need to get, need to get the emotes done. But SD, dude, thank you so very much. We really appreciate that. We appreciate you. And yeah, that called for special shout outs. So
yeah, that gets to go in the segment that we normally would do for like the shout outs and, Patreon section beforehand, but it happened literally during the break right after we did that. So
so this is yes, a special shout out. But all right, so Tails. Now it's going to be difficult to get everything, get the train back on track in my mind, but
what have you been up to?
Wait.
Anything?
I didn't get to talk about this. You see the notes, right? We didn't do an episode. I didn't talk about the two things that I have in my notes.
No,
I don't think so. Okay.
No,
so,
you did not. You definitely did not, because I don't know either of these tales. Well, actually, I know part of one of them because you just mentioned it in our podcast chat.
Yeah. All right. So, I was playing. You will be surprised. What's his name? Tales of Tribute. And I'm just playing casually, trying to get my rank up. And I'm streaming as well. I think it was on my own channel. And I look at the name that I am matched against, and it reminds me of a certain battleground match where I went up against this immortal as hell tank. This dude was tanking 8 people by himself on the flag, and we just could not drop his health down. I talked about this in my tales maybe like 100 episodes ago.
I remember this.
And I'm like, we just can't kill him. He's insane, and he has that shield where, not the shield, but the set where if you block, it just like applies an AoE ice debuff. Yep. And because he's not dying, he is constantly applying that, and everyone around him is just constantly freezing up, and it's just super annoying to fight against. And I'm like, I gotta have this build, because that is how I love doing PvP. Just be an unmovable fortress and be the most annoying existence in the battlefield. So I messaged him, and I was like, dude, I gotta know your build. And he said he was streaming, and he was Disaster _show, if I remember correctly. He's one of the French stream team members. And I'm fighting, and I looked at the name, and I was like, Disaster, wait. Is this the the same Disaster? So I quickly went onto Twitch. I was streaming as well. I opened it up, and yep, we were battling it out. I, as a proper competitive person, paused the stream, did not look at the hands or anything like that, and it was a proper decent match. I won, if I remember correctly. If someone is in chat remembers it, let me know, but I think I won. And while I was fighting him, Ophelia, who's also a stream team, well, she used to be a stream team member partner, she's now a Bethesda UK community manager, she popped up by the stream and she was like, we should duel. And I obviously accepted it because I've known Ophelia for several years now. The number of games, whatever it is, that I've won against her is probably like 2. She generally beats the hell out of me in games. So I was like, let's do this, because I'm an experienced card player. I might not be an experienced Tales of Tribute player, but I'm a good card player. Now the thing is, my RNG is garbage. But the good thing is, in Tales of Tribute, it's actually a lot less RNG compared to some other card games. So I was like, okay, there is a chance. So the first game, I won by like a huge margin because I got the both armory and like the all the good cards basically, and she got nothing. So it was like 7-48 or something like that. It was a crazy thing because I started just dropping cards and getting new cards. It worked out. So I was like, okay, this is a fluke because it doesn't make sense. So we played another match and I lost it. And I was like, okay, this makes more sense. So we played the third match and it was a pretty close one, but I won that as well. So I won one of my rarest games against Ophelia and Disaster in the same stream, back to back. And I'm really happy about that. I was really happy about that. And the fact that I actually like matched, I don't know, it's the same possibility as matching with anybody else. But matching with someone from like the stream team or like from the community, from a random match, always feels interesting. I don't know why. So the fact that I matched against Disaster, that was fun. I messaged him after, I was GG. I don't know what he said back because French, I don't know. He generally replies if you like message him in English, but he was in the middle of a sentence. Anyway, so that was a good fun. I'm having difficulty finding words today, but you get it. That
Probably
was fun.
because we've been talking for so long.
That could be it as well. And before this, actually, just before we went live with Tales, this is the good part. The second season.
That's such a good segue. I just want to point out how good of a segue that was by ruining your segue.
We always do that though. Like we never have a good segue because we can't stop ourselves from mentioning how good a segue is. But yeah, so we played an Elder Scrolls themed D&D 5th edition game for 2 years, DM'd by Ophelia and played by yours truly, Ninja614, Dawn Whisper, and K5XD. And that had come to an end. The first season of Roads Less Traveled had come to an end several years ago. And we've been waiting to get back to it. And today, just before the show, we had the first episode of the second season of Roads Less Traveled. And I have to say, none of us told each other our characters. Ophelia made us like hide things and name our character sheets, weird stuff and things like that, so we wouldn't know who's playing what. So we are learning everything for the first time as well. And I gotta say, it will be as chaotic as the first 2 years, from at least the things I've seen in the first episode and my own character that I will not be revealing the details of. But if you have been a long-time Tales of Tamriel listener, when I say Thunderstruck, it might ring up some bells. That's all I can say, because my character is Thunderstruck. Well, a modified Thunderstruck. But yeah, so if you're interested in it, do go to twitch.tv/Ophelia. You will find all the season 1 VODs there, archives, and of course all the season 2 archives, which is only the first episode. We will be playing bi-weekly on Sundays, starting at 11 EM Eastern, and that is 3 PM GMT. So just like an hour or about 4 hours before our showtime with Tales. Anything else I want to mention there? I don't think so. So that's it. From now on, every week, well, every other week, I will probably have Tales from that as well. But I won't start getting into it until everyone sort of like gets into their character and reveals what their characters are, so that I don't spoil them here. And as Isha said, K-Pow, as always, was in an absolutely amazing costume. Dawn was in a great costume. Ninja, okay, I gotta say this. Ninja was in a costume, and I have to say this, he's playing an Imperial. So, for some people, that is going to make sense. Why that is an interesting point. But yeah, and I was not in a costume because I tried, and 10 minutes in, I was like, no, I just removed everything because goodness me, I don't know how people got into their costumes in this heat. And I have a proper wall-mounted AC. I know in the UK they are using like portable stuff, and UK is going through a heat wave. It's dedication that I don't know. I can barely do the show right now because of the heat, and I've been blasting my AC for the last 7 weeks. I think I don't think I ever turned it off. So yeah. Other than that, did I do anything else? No. What I've been doing mostly is working on my own game. I've actually started streaming about it as well. I started a new Discord channel about it. I'm basically going full public with it now. It's in very early stages, but if you want to follow that, just go to basically my Twitter at Arkanir, ARKHANIIR. And there should be a link tree in there that can bring you to that Discord, things like that. But yeah, that's about it, I guess, for me, in terms of what I've been doing in the past couple of weeks and Elder Scrolls stuff. Lotus, you probably have the more themed, on-brand tales. And I feel like more rant coming our way. So why don't you take it away?
So it's not going to be too ranty because there's definitely some things I want to point out because I would be remiss if I didn't. But I've had some stuff that I've been doing in game as always. Starting off, I've been using the Oakensoul ring in Battlegrounds, like I had mentioned, and it's pretty great because wow, you can really just mess people up with that. I had mentioned the game where we won 515-0, which was brutal. But
I wonder how it would be on a tank build, like tank PvP build.
I can't imagine as impactful.
What was the buffs that it gave anyway? It was like a bunch of major things, but it's so many things: major force, major protection, the resource one, the crit one. It's just there's so many buffs. So you do like crazy damage, and you're super durable. Does it give major mending? Do you remember? I'm gonna Google.
Yeah, look it up.
What was it called?
Oakensoul. Yep.
That was the first thing that came up when I typed in Oaken, and there is Thorin Oakenshield that could have came up first. But instead we got the Oakensoul. So the out SEO Lord of the Rings.
Also, my favorite part is Fiddis, welcome to the chat. Brain Dead Templar 1-bar Oakensoul easy peasy, and that would be correct because that is the build that I use specifically.
Okay, so
you are on brand.
Major Berserk, Major Courage, Major Brutality, Major Sorcery, Major Prophecy, Major Savagery, Major Force, Major Protection, Major Resolve, Minor Fortitude, Intellect, and Endurance, and Major Heroism. So, yeah, defensive-wise, it only gives Major Protection. So I guess, yeah, like every damage buff in the game, but not as much defensive. So, yeah, that's...
So that's super brutal in Battlegrounds, and as a result, and me being sort of a scumbag, which I'm sure many teams were not pleased by having me on the team, because I didn't care about winning or losing a Battleground. I cared about the achievements that I'm going for. The thing that I really needed, because I was so close, was my last couple of Relic Carrier kills in Capture the Relic. But the thing is, in order to get a Relic Carrier kill, you need to have them holding the relic, meaning you need to intentionally let them pick up the objective.
Oh, yeah.
And most people are going to bash them when they're doing... Yeah, people are going to obviously bash them, all this stuff. Nope, I was sitting in my base. People were looking at me like, why is he just standing there crouched like a creep in the shrub or whatever? And people would, teammates ran by to shove people off because they would see me sitting there, and I would wait until the channel was basically complete on them picking up the relic, and then I would dive in and hit them with World War III and like just nuke them entirely and get the relic kill. But like people were just like, you could tell some teammates were like, this dude is throwing. And I'm like, I'm sort of throwing, but I really care more about getting this kill.
How many kills do you have to, like, how many?
100 Relic Carrier kills.
Oh my God.
And I got it earlier today. So I have killed 100 people carrying the relic. The one thing that I found that's not a combat to kill me necessarily, but it's just a combat method of being annoying, that stupid Dark Convergence set. There were so many times where I was chasing somebody to try to get them while they were trying to run like away with the relic, and I'm constantly getting dragged across the arena or through scenery to that stupid Dark Convergence thing, and I'm like, God, it's like but so I did manage to get that, which is awesome because I had been working at that for a long time. The other thing that we did was we picked up some. We still haven't managed to get our Unchained, unfortunately, but we goofed around with some of the other achievements in Black Rose Prison. We got the one where it's, I think, called Rarely Rooted, where nobody actually gets rooted by the second boss, Tames the Beast, where he'll send out these like vines and they'll grapple you. Yeah, and the big thing is, like, this is related to what I was talking about. Do you consider what I did creative, or do you consider me cheesing it and I should like be yelled at? Because if you want to do that and you haven't already gotten and you give a crap about this stuff, there is a great strategy to it. And that would be using the Snow Treaders mythic, which means that you cannot be afflicted by any purgeable CC effect.
Yeah. No, that's a mechanic. No. That's an item set in the game. It's not cheesing. It's thinking of using it.
Sure, because we just were like, all right, beat the shit out of the beast. And he kept doing it, and the vines just fall right off us. We're like, get him! And totally got it without even trying. Didn't need to dodge anything. Just
there you go.
Easy peasy. So that one was super simple. The other one that I just want to reference, because so far, none of us know what's going on. We beat it. I have no further interest in looking into it, but I looked like the worst player ever. I was on DPS in that round. We were doing 3 DPS. Well, it was me as like a hybrid, but we basically did 3 DPS. But the final boss, you collect these ghosts, and that prevents the explosion from blowing everybody up. There's an achievement called Spirit Sundered or something like that, where basically you have to intentionally let the boss absorb 2 of the ghosts.
Okay.
And it makes the explosion a lot bigger and a lot more impactful. That's basically just do this fight incorrectly and you'll get an achievement, but you still have to win. And I was like, okay, so we go in there, we're chewing through everything. And for whatever reason, like, it just blasts me out of the sky. Like, I take, on my DPS, I take 39,000 damage from the explosion. I'm like, wow, I got decimated. And it does a lot of damage to everybody else, but nothing like me. And I'm like, oh, I must be a little too trials heavy. Like, I'm relying a little too much on a healer. So let's go a little safer here. So I go a little safer. Bring up my I use different food so that I have like 21k health instead of the usual like 19.7 I have, or whatever it is that I do. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm like, all right, we got this. We go in and boom, decimated, completely destroyed, 39,000 damage. I get completely nuked off the planet. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, okay. So, but like, everybody else is taking damage, and if they're not at full health, they'll die. But like, if they are, they can generally escape by with a little bit. And I'm like, well, I know this is supposed to hit harder, but I was like, this isn't even in the ballpark of something I can survive. And I was like, maybe my resistances are too low. And we talk about what our resistances are, and we're all pretty similar, which is weird because we're all running not necessarily meta, but pretty close to meta. And I'm like, all right, let me try it. You know, we'll go to the old faithful here. I'm going to put on the Oakensoul ring because then I'll have major protection up. I'll have, right? Boom, 39,000 damage, completely deleted. I'm like, what is going on? Like, nothing is even making a difference.
Like are you maybe not blocking or something? And it's like one shot?
I blocked. At first, I thought maybe my block wasn't going up quick enough. So then I started just walking around blocking just to make sure. And I'm purging off the ghost. I know how this works. We all did it, and I've done the place a ton of times on DPS as well. So I'm pretty acquainted with it. Just nothing's working. I'm just taking catastrophic damage each time. Other people are dying sometimes, but not consistently. I'm the only one getting eviscerated. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I was like, you know what? We're really going to go whole hog. I went in and I changed my sets that I was wearing. And I went, I changed my Mundus stone to the one that gives you resistances. I had on my Plar 27,000 of each resistance on a DPS by the time I was done. And I'm like, okay, and I got the Oakensoul ring on, and we're going to run barrier, and I'm going to do a personal shield, and I've got Ice Heart on, and boom, 42,000 damage. I actually took more. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I was like, that objectively makes no sense. I was like, what is happening?
Oh, so beautiful.
So I was like, so we've got two strategies here. One, I'm dead weight, and I will help you, but you guys are going to have to res me because I suck. Or two, I off-tank this on my actual character, and I just debuff and buff you guys, which is weird because we won't have a healer. We'll have two tanks, but I'll like do something like that. And they were like, just stay on your DPS for now. We'll go with the you suck approach. Like, we'll just pick you up. Like, well, that's, and we've also got the sigil because we don't give a crap about like using sigils during this or whatever. And we're like, each one will use a sigil to see if anything helps. And we do it, and surprise, explodes. I get nuked. I'm like, well, at this point, if I'm going to die anyways, I'm going full into damage because who cares? I'm dead anyways. I might as well do as much as I can before I get melted, and then somebody can just pick me up. So we do that. And I scale all my stuff back down. I go back to what I was using, and we're welling on the boss. And he gets like he jumps weird on his stage, and a totem comes up at the same time. I'm like, oh no, this is like a terrible position. And the explosion goes off, and everybody dies, and I'm alive with like no damage taken. What? I'm like, what is going on?
Is it taking like your offensive stat as a resistance or something? Like,
no idea what was going on. I was like, okay, I took 0 damage this time. So whatever, I couldn't manage to grab everybody back. We die, we wipe. So we do this for like a little while. And we eventually clear it. And as we're going through, I realize my damage is so erratic. It seems like under basically the same parameters, I would take between 400 damage and 42,000 damage. And I could never figure out why, We tried watching VODs. Nobody else could figure out why. And then there was the one time where it blew everybody up and I was somehow the only person alive. And I'm like, okay, I don't know.
That
whatever.
is so
We got it in the
strange.
end. I was clueless as to what I was doing wrong. And I've since run it again, and it does the proper amount of damage. It does a few thousand, but I'm also not trying to let him get multiple ghosts. You usually just let him sit on one ghost. But yeah, so that was an interesting experience. We also ran through somebody in one of my groups didn't have their skin, and I was like, oh man, I've never just done like. He's a great player, so we were like, let's just run through it. We ran through it, got him his skin. So big congrats to Gun on your new skin. You did great. We crushed that place in like 50 minutes, and he had never done it on Vet. So like, that was great. And then I've gone through and done some new dungeon tales, as I had been out of commission with doing those a decent bit. But we actually are going back to the previous ones, like I was doing, but we took a brief break from all the originals because I felt like a lot of people don't know the new dungeons and they tie into the current season that we're all playing. So we actually went ahead and did both of the storylines to the new dungeons. Last week we put out Corollary, which is comically long. It's like 47 minutes long.
Okay.
How involved the actual storyline is with all the side stuff. And Shipwright's Regret, it just got posted this morning on my YouTube of just Lotus of Doom. But yeah, so now if you are interested in the storyline to either of the dungeons from the current season, and you didn't get to see them for whatever reason, they're available for people if you would just like to do that. But this leads me into just kind of like my little outro to things are still problematic on the performance. It's better in a lot of aspects after the patch, but recording Shipwright's Regret was problematic as I was unable to access doors at several points and we needed to restart the video. There is a note in the description if you do decide to check out the video. I linked the UESP of the note nailed to the post in the dungeon, because normally I will read the things on screen for you. Like I'll hold them up and give you time to read them, except it's in the post now, so you can't interact with it. So since I can't do that, I basically just gave a link to what the actual thing is, so you can check that out because I was unable to fix it. Yeah. And then as I've been going through trying to close in on 50,000 achievement points, I'm starting to realize just how many achievements are currently broken as a result of High Isle, which also might be contributing a little bit to the phasing out of a little bit of my like prog type of idea, because I love collecting achievements. And one thing that I am super invested in is I just like doing that stuff. And that is apparently not working so well at the moment. The big
just to clarify, your idea of fun, enjoying and liking achievement is just wrong wording. You are straight up addicted to it.
It's so much fun, though. So much fun. Well, some of them, I guess. Collecting those kills on the flag carriers got less fun at about 50. I was like, "Well, this is starting to become work." But the I love the companions. I finished Ember's entire thing. She really cool storyline. Love that character. And I went and collected Isabel, who I was kind of indifferent to, and I take it all back. Isabel is awesome. She's a great character. Haven't finished her storyline, but it's super good so far. I think it's really like heartwarming, I guess is probably a good way of putting it. It's just very well done all around so far. However, there is a catastrophic problem with Isabel, and I just found out about it when I was looking up for what I was doing wrong. Turns out it's just broken. One of the parts of her achievement is to gain her favor. You need to win or engage in a duel with Isabel as a companion out. And that just doesn't work. You just can't complete it. And it's not anything we were doing wrong, because if you look at the forums, there's a huge thread. It worked on PTS and then apparently broke when it hit live. And they said they are aware of it, but I don't know what the deal is on an ETA of fixing it or whatever. But unfortunately, as a side effect, even if you don't give a crap about achievements, you get these characters as house guests to put in your residence, your homestead. She is perpetually locked until this is fixed.
That is weird because, like, Isabel is voiced by Laura Bailey, if I remember correctly.
I think
she
so.
is
That's right.
one of the like most liked voice actors in the gaming industry. And the fact that like you voice a character with a voice artist like that, and then you limit the like, why? What is going on there? Did you run out of money to pay Laura Bailey to do some like housing lines or something? What's happened there?
My assumption is they're in the game, but nobody can get it because you can't complete the other achievement. Like she should be attainable, but
yeah, that makes sense too.
But nobody can unlock her.
Yeah,
so nobody can test it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So that's what it is. And that sucks because from my perspective, it's the like, oh, I want my achievement points. It'll get me closer to it. As a side effect, because the companions are intertwined in the achievements menu, I can't complete that, which means that I can't. So that's one achievement, which means that I can't then max her out, which is another achievement. And then there's an achievement combined for maxing out both of the companions, which is theoretically locked because I can't unlock the other. So that's 75 points that are just locked until they fix it, which sucks.
Yeah.
So that's a downer. I really hope that they fix that sooner. I'm not even going to say, hopefully they fix that next patch. Hopefully they fix that like soon, because I like don't want to wait for the next DLC. Like fix that. That's lame. I'm sure it's harder than the way I'm making it out to be, but yeah, that's a bit of a downer. I continue to love High Isle's content. It is at this point, as I'm going through the story and doing some other stuff, having fun with Tales of Tribute, it is now, I can definitively say, my favorite chapter that has ever come out for Elder Scrolls Online. And that is in spite of all the things that I've had to say being problems for me. In spite of all of that, it's still my favorite. So I guess that is your selling point. Like, oh, I ran into all these problems and it's my favorite one ever. So
yeah,
like that's basically the biggest praise I can give to it, because none of that has made me not enjoy it. It's just, I don't know. I just really, really like this chapter. So it's just, it's great. And I really liked the change of the story direction type of thing. So I'm really curious. I've heard good things about the new dungeons. I'm very curious to try those. And I'm really curious to see how the year ends type of thing once I finish this story and everything like that.
I still haven't done anything but the card game in High Isle, so I don't know. I really should check out the story though, because like it is an interesting plot. After all the world-ending events, going back to the Three Banners War has been something that I was waiting for. Basically the main quest. Like since the main quest, I've been waiting to go back to the Three Banners War, so I should get involved in the how much references does the Blackwood year have in High Isle? Like, do I need to finish that
good.
up?
No, you
I'm
don't.
good. Okay, then I'll just roll into High Isle.
Yeah, that's wholly confined to itself. This year is totally new. All I can suggest, do the prologue quest. Sorry. Do the prologue quest and check out my YouTube videos on the story to the two dungeons.
Yeah.
And that's really it. You'll be all caught up.
So, anything else?
No, that is it. And I was going to say, at this point, since we're pushing 3 hours and I desperately need food before I do a trial in like 40 minutes.
Oh,
yeah, I am so hungry. I think that's probably a good place for us to finally call it. I hope everybody enjoys the nice beefy episode.
No. That brings us to the next section.
Oh, crap. The new extended section of the show.
Now we got the reading of 36 lessons of Vivek. It's call in Egelos. We need. All right, so In that case, final thoughts, and where can people find you?
So yeah, I'm pretty much Lotus of Doom anywhere that I have an account: Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Hopefully soon enough, I will be able to actually starting Daggerfall. Like I had mentioned, if you're interested in the stories to any of the dungeons, that's what I've been uploading to my YouTube, as well as if you like watching me play old classics poorly, both of the live streams of Elder Scrolls Legend Battlespire and Elder Scrolls 1 Arena are also on my YouTube at this point. I just uploaded the feeds of the episodes. They are not split up into logical lengths of videos. They are just the full live streams. So some of them are like an hour long, some of them are like 5 hours long.
Dude, that's how it's supposed to be. That's our way of doing things, I guess.
Exactly. Yes. And other than that, I was going to say you can check out me and Tom over at Elder Scrolls Lorecast. In the coming weeks, we can't say anything yet, but there's something in the works that sometimes happens with Bethesda in the summer that we've been involved with before. Wink.
Wait, so many things happens with Bethesda in the summers. It could be, oh my god,
it could be anything.
Like,
look, I got good at being an obnoxious tease too. I did it.
Bethesda event almost happens in summer. Like, what? This makes no sense.
But how about you, Ark?
So you can find me anywhere that is Arkanir, ARKHANIIR. Do check out the Twitch Arkanir's Quest, as well as that Discord I created, which at the moment the easiest way to get there would be through the link on my Twitter, the link tree on my Twitter. I'll have to figure all those out, but in time. As for the show, you can follow everything we do over at talesoftamrielpodcast.com. There you can find links to all of our social media and content. Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/UESP if you want to help support the show and earn awesome Elder Scrolls themed rewards in the process. You can also consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes it matters. Thank you all so very much for joining us on this episode of Tales of Tamriel, and we will see you all next week. Have a great night, everyone.
When Akatosh slew Lorcan, he ripped his heart right out. He hurled it across Tamriel, and the heart was heard to shout, red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. The laughing heart sprayed blood afar, a gout on Seer it fell, and like a dart shot to its mark down in an alien well. Magicka fused the Lorcan blood to crystal red and strong. Then wild elves cut and polished it down to Chimel at a ball. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. When elves lost Nirn to men, Akatosh gave the stone to Saint Alesh in token of her right to sit the throne. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. Red diamond, protect us till the end.